whilst filming this episode for our Supercharged M3 project, the state of the world has changed quite a bit. There's a virus which will be old news by the time you hear this, but called Corona or COVID-19, that's spreading from China throughout the world quite quickly, and it's since gone pandemic. There's lots of talk about everyone shutting down borders and population control and all sorts of sort of movie-like esque scenarios being thrown about. So this video may well go nowhere. We don't know at the moment. So let's keep our fingers crossed. We're obviously closely monitoring the situation, as everybody is. But the main thing is everybody's safety. That's paramount, obviously. It's all good fun, having a good time and playing with our cars and going on track days and things like that. But ultimately, if you haven't got your health, you can't do anything anyway. So we're just seeing what the facts are, weighing it up, seeing what we need to do as a business, and how it's going to affect the ring trip. So every day counts. We'll wait and see. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and the latest instalment of our Supercharged M3 project car. The last episode, when we left you, we were leaving Spa, travelling back to the UK, and the reason there hasn't been anything to tell you since is because there hasn't really been much to tell you, to be honest, because the cars actually went into storage because we were too busy here. We're only a small business and we only have a small amount of space outside as well for cars, so we had to put it into storage temporarily. But there were a couple of issues, nothing major, but I'll go through those as we go through what's now going to be done to the car as like the next phase, if you like. So we've got some maintenance to do. We've got some exciting upgrades as well, one big exciting upgrade and a couple of smaller ones. And also we're going to be going back to the ring, you'll be pleased to hear. That is in about 5 weeks from today. Yeah, 5 weeks from today. So as usual, we've not left ourselves loads of time, but that's always the way it is when it's your own stuff. So yeah, we're going to get to showing you now one of the issues we found, which occurred right at the end of the track day at Spa. So one of the problems we had with the car, right at the end of the last session, it started to clonk when I was changing gear. And it sounded something along the drive line, you could feel it shudder. Now, there's nothing off it, so we've already pulled the exhaust off. The exhaust is over there, as you can see. That's our prototype exhaust we built for this one to get it through noise regs in the UK as well. And there's a couple of issues. You can see some of the other mods obviously we did before, which in the previous video, where we've got the inner CV rebuild kit there. But if I try and show you guys, there's a couple of things about the BMWs that are quite worrying. There's this. However, this is quite normal. Now, I'm no M3 expert, but I know most of the cars I've owned over my life, noises like that and movements like that in at the rear end are not particularly great. However, the M3s do, that is a factory kind of thing. They do have a little bit of a movement in this. It's known as the M3 wobble by a few people. So yeah, that's obviously going to cause a little bit of the noise. However, when the prop shaft is rotated, I don't know if you guys can hear this. You come right up here, you might be able to hear it on the camera. And it's subject to it's further subject to that. That's a separate issue. That's something that can be eliminated, which I will come on to in a bit. However, I've pulled the trigger and basically got a differential coming, which will be here tomorrow before noon. It's being brought down by a very nice gentleman by the name of Dara, and he's going to tell you a bit more about that and the process and what I've actually bought and what he's built for me. And he's going to explain that in person. And there you go. Josh is a dab hand now at pulling the rear end out of a BMW, aren't you, mate? And that's that is one differential out. You noticed a couple of little things as well while we were there with the nose bush, which is the front bush for the Diff. That looks like seeing a little bit of movement. This is Dara from Everything M3s, and he is the chap that has helped us with the rear differential. So Dara, tell us a bit about yourself and what you've done for the for our rear diff, please.
Hi Nathan. So yeah, well, you contacted me a week ago. Explained that you had an issue with your diff. So basically, this is a fully refurbished E46 M3 differential. The whole thing has been completely stripped back, every single component taken off. The casing shot blasted. It's used Pour 15 paint. It's got new rear casing. It's got all new bearings on the pinion, new bearings on the carrier, on the LSD. It's got uprated clutches inside of the LSD. It's got a special little fix to stop the right hand output shaft that normally has a bit of a wobble to it. Everything's all been rebuilt. It's all nice, tight, good to go. Better than standard. It should last a hell of a lot longer as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So, as you have just seen, this is the new differential, just introduced by Dara there. Now, what we've done, after taking some advice from him as well, and this coming with original bushings in it, you can see this, the solid centre, BMW factory bushes basically. However, one of the other things that he was good enough to bring along and throw in as part of the deal was the bush, the front bush for the diff here, which goes into the subframe. Now, we did have a Powerflex one in this, but it's not done us a very good turn, if I'm honest. So this is our Powerflex bush. Now, before you think, oh, is that ovalled out? They are ovalled to start with. It does have a slightly elongated centre, but it's actually not elongated as that is. It has actually worn slightly. So we've basically determined that this was our problem area. When we took the bolt out, the bolt was slightly loose in this, even though everything was all torqued down to spec. Apparently Dara tells me that what tends to happen with these is when they're mounted like so in the subframe, after a certain amount of time, especially if you've got the kind of everything else is stiffer around it, they start to try and rotate. And what happens is that then, as it rotates, it pulls on the bolt and essentially pulls the front bolt loose. So that is and was our problem. Although the diff is very tired, which we've had confirmed by Dara. So it would have had to have been done anyway. I'm glad it has been done, but ultimately this was our actual proper knock, followed by a muted knock on the from the actual differential itself. Pretty decent progress. Diff mounted, everything nut and bolt checked, cleaned up, and ready for the exhaust. Then we can actually get this back down on the floor. Oh, sorry, no, we've got to finish up the power steering on the front. Sorry, in the morning, exhaust on, finish up the power steering relocation of the reservoir. But yeah, all good. Now, one of the things on my maintenance list is my carbon fibre boot. There's a nasty chip in it, and it's had it for a while. There we go. It's had it for a while, annoyingly. Because it's right there, the badge and everything else, it's just getting on my nerves. So that's something I'm going to deal with. Also, while I'm on the boot, the aero catches, this was very much thrown together at the last minute, if you remember, giving myself a reasonably secure boot, but I didn't have a very odd set of nuts and bolts, which sit proud and just look terrible. It's like a bit of a Frankenstein job really, so I've got some new nuts and bolts for that, just to smooth that out and make that look a little bit cleaner as well, so I'll get on with that. Ta-da! Also, in other news, there's the new matching, nicer domed capped Allen bolts, all matching. I can sleep easy at night now. So one of the things I do want to do, and one of the hotspot areas, there's a few hotspot areas in this engine bay, thanks to the addition of this supercharger. One obviously being the supercharger itself, and the ESS kit they supply essentially asks you to put the power steering reservoir bottle here, but we found that between the hot oil filter housing, the hot supercharger, lots of heat. You know, hasn't really caused an issue as such, but you do get a little bit of bubbling up. So I'm taking the action to basically swap it over to this lovely big space we have here now. So this will be utilised for the power steering reservoir. It's not masses of different plumbing to be done. It's quite straightforward. To be honest with you, it's about the same amount of plumbing as it is to have it there. Especially when we have the addition of the aftermarket cooler in there as well. So that's one of my next jobs. And speaking of hotspots in here, there is plans to enable this area, particularly the superchargers, to cool down and vent a lot easier. But that will I'll update you on that in a bit. Ta-da! One relocated power steering reservoir bottle. All tested, no leaks, everything's good, isn't it, Josh? We've got yeah, quite happy with that. It's got a nice bit of space around it as well. It's at a good height. Frees up a bit more room around here for a little bit more cooling. There we go. Rear diffuser now mounted, yeah, ready to go. Exhaust back on. It's like a prototype we use for getting us through noise regs. Also, it still runs sports cats on it. A decent flow though. You can still get good power from the car with those on there. And then you can see the bottom, or the cooling plate of our lovely new rear diff, which we can't wait to beat up a bit. And here's the finished result, albeit upside down. Fresh little misting repaint. Corners all good. Corners all repaired. The grills, we've gone back to black. Just think it looks better, in all honesty. Just touched everything up. Little repair on the primary vent that does keep seeming to let go under heavy duress. Hopefully that will hold up now. So that's that. Moving over here, you'll be able to see the boot chip is now resolved. Again, not a perfect job, but certainly a lot better. Quick paint of this as well, and new nuts and bolts on the aero catches, so they're all looking much better now as well. So yeah, happy with those little cosmetics getting sorted. Makes the car look a little bit tidier. Now that is of course if we even go, because as you've probably seen through the this particular episode, obviously it's the moment as it stands today, as of today, that's literally I think times midday now, France have closed their borders, which we're not sure exactly what it means at the moment. We are looking into it, and obviously it's one of these things we have to check daily to see what's going on. But all this work won't be for nothing regardless. Even if this doesn't go ahead and we don't get to Germany, we will certainly be taking it to a few track days before the end of the year, and we will probably more than likely cram a few of them in quite quickly to get some miles under the belt for the car and get some proper testing done with it, because as you know, last year we only really just got it thrown together to take to the ring. So yeah, we'll have to we're just literally going to play it by ear at the moment. Fingers crossed everything goes well and we're able to get across, but we are currently just under 3 weeks away from our departure, and the situation's got so bad now that they're closing borders, they're keeping people inside, which is will be old news by the time this airs anyway. But it's looking pretty grim. It's looking pretty grim, unfortunately, at the moment. It's something that's totally out of our control. So if it's cancelled, it's cancelled. We can only hope that it gets cancelled at the top, and then it filters down and obviously refunds us. Moving on to the front bumper modifications I wanted to make. The front canards are now mocked up. That one's very mocked up. hanging off at the moment. So another big deal is in here. Although it doesn't look like much, Tommy's managed to move the radiator, relocate it, and also resize the cooling side plates to give us an extra 20mm of clearance from the radiator to the engine block. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when combined with our top cover here, our side plates, and obviously the vents that are in the bonnet here, which I'll show you in a minute, the airflow should be optimised for cooling purposes. The supercharger has just had its service, so that's now all good to go. Obviously you've seen the power steering relocation, that's all done. It's done a proper test drive now with that, we're all happy with that. A couple of things underneath that are going on. It's actually a lot more obvious looking up how much more space there is, even though it's only 20mm. Believe me, I can tell from looking down just in this gap here. So that's it, like I say, definitely help towards the cooling. Long-term plans are possibly to be able to move the radiator, but we'll see about that in the winter. We hope you enjoyed that, guys. Please leave us a comment below. We do really appreciate everybody's feedback. It will help us decide what gets put on the channel and what doesn't, ultimately what people want to see more of. Please also leave us a like. I like it a lot. Share with your friends. Please be my friend. And subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, if you want to know about any future uploads, you can hit the bell button to be notified. Thanks for watching.